It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here! Tonight, let us make them remember we are not afraid!
Welcome back to Declare Your Independence with me, Ernest Hancock, here in Phoenix, Arizona, IA, where it's always the center of everything. Everything's happening in Arizona. This weekend we got the Tea Party. The Tea Party's coming up, and it's, I can't even keep track of which Tea Party or how or who and overlapping, and they're doing what. A bunch of the activists are going over there. I've been getting calls around the country. What are we going to do? And I'm like, am I allowed not to care? Because that's a Republican thing. And they're going to have this $10 registration. If you go to Freedom's Phoenix, I put it up towards the top up there. For $10, you can register for the summit, and you get to vote in the straw poll. How many voters will Romney's money buy? We'll find out. Dr. Paul's going to be here tomorrow speaking, and I'm another speaking tour for Dr. Paul. 2012 speaking tour. Cool. Well, one of the issues that came up was immigration. I remember when I was in New Hampshire and we were campaigning there and out in the, chest-high snow, putting signs up everywhere on TV. They were playing immigration bad is bad. And I'm going, why is Dr. Paul's campaign taking on this immigration thing? Why is that such a big... Because that's what the polls were. People have been, whipped up into a frenzy. It's all immigrants' fault. If we got rid of all the immigrants, all our problems would go away. Would they? Well, we've had shows on this before, and I want to introduce you to a gentleman, CZ, how do I say this? Siva.
Czaia.
CJ Czaia. I couldn't read my own writing. Thank you, CJ. CJ is an attorney from Florida. And he has, he's heavily involved in the Democratic Party, and he kind of represents a voting bloc of Hispanics. He's run for office. He's been an officer in county politics there for the Democrats, and he's a member of the Florida Bar Association. Now, what he's going to do today, and I think it's a good time for us to talk about this for a little bit, as we go into this Tea Party thing this weekend, because, it's going to be immigration. Russell Pierce's SB 1070 here, and now just yesterday we had on John Green talking about legislation here they're doing, and it's all about tracking everybody. Just exactly what we said was going to happen. It's all this national ID, all these licenses. We know where you live. It's all sent to Homeland Security. This has nothing to do with immigration. It has to do with control. And I'm going, okay, well, let's get into the immigration issue because it is an important issue to a lot of people. Now, CJ, go ahead and explain to me what the issues really are, and we'll get into the DREAM Act and what it actually said, but I need to know what the uphill battle you are against people that said, no, they're illegal immigrants in this country. Can't they understand the law? Get them out. Give me your spiel.
Ignorant. Those people are ignorant. You can be very schooled but not very educated. It's a problem in this country. A lot of ignorance, and that's to be very nice and gentle about it. If you are a proponent for jailing 11 million people, you just think what you're going to be an advocate for is a virtual police state with electric fences, armed guards on the border, roadblocks on every highway, regular raids of all U.S. businesses, Big Brother-like national tracking system, extensive use of ethnic profiling. Hey, this is the country I don't want to live in. And if you want that, hi Hitler to you. I don't want that.
So, it's already here.
Well, that's my point. They're going to have to do these kind of things if you want to get rid of immigrants. They're not a drain on the economy, and they're not illegal. And let me explain that. You know, 40% of the people who are undocumented in this nation come by airplane. They come here legally with a visa. They just happen to overstay the visa. The other problem I have, and we'll talk about the DREAM Act and the kids that are brought here. If you know anything about criminal law, I'm a PI guy now, but I used to do criminal law, 1 murder trials on the day. In order to commit a crime, you have to have intent. So if you're a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 12 or 16, and brought here by your parents, what intent did you have to come here? Nothing. And that's what the DREAM Act is about. Those are not criminals. So it's not a criminal thing. In a criminal case in the United States, if it's a criminal case, I have a right to an attorney, fundamental right we have here. And guess what? When you go through the reported procedures, those are civil cases. They are not, you don't have right to counsel because they're not criminal. So they're not criminals. Where you get into problems is where you enter the U.S. without going through a checkpoint, without proper papers. But if you overstay, it's clearly not criminal. And there's issues with all this because there's natural law and public law, and I can get into that in a minute.
Well, let me go ahead and do that.
My argument is they're not criminal. It's they're overstaying. And here's my last point before you ask the questions. My big problem is if you want to put a fence with the southern border, and I understand Texas and Arizona, all these states, this is a big hot issue, but how about the fence with Canada? Why is it always the Mexicans, the Mexicans, the Mexicans, the Mexicans? There's so much illegal, if you will, immigration coming through Canada. They just happen to be white, and they speak our language.
Oh, no, they'll get to Canada.
That's the problem. If you want a fence in Mexico, put one in Canada.
No, they will.
Profiling.
They will.
They don't.
They will.
Because even in Florida, they're proposing legislation just like they've done in Arizona, excluding Canadians and Europeans.
If they're going to make money at it, they're going to do it because this is
a great point.
This is money making thing. It's always about it's what it always is. You want to eliminate the violence. You want to eliminate the violence. Let me finish. If you want to eliminate the violence, you eliminate the drug war. But no, it's not about eliminating the violence. It's about funding whatever the heck it is that they want to do. You want to get rid of terrorism, protect against that? Well, then get on the border and start protecting. No, that's not what it's about. It's about creating a police state. You want to get rid of immigrants, first off, I mean, we can get into the details on that, but the one thing, you don't make me a criminal and put me under suspicion and anal probe me every time I want to, cross a border. So I'm going So one thing that I want to get to, though, is when you say there has to be intent for there to be a crime, and I'm going, well, okay, maybe I'm looking for the victim. Who's the victim? And
there's no victim here, except for the person who's being deported, that child that's brought here. I'll give you an example with intent. If you have a pen and you're in the store and you take that pen and you hide it in your jacket, you don't have to walk out. They can arrest you for stealing because you had the intent to deprive that person of that property. If you loan me a pen and I use it and I take it home and I really keep it, but it wasn't my intent to do that, I'm not guilty of being a criminal. So you have to look at each situation and can't just paint the big brush. What I was very impressed with what you just said, which most people don't get, is about following the money. What we know is there's $1 billion industry in this country, and that's locking people up. CGA Corporation was very much behind writing the Arizona law that the governor pushed because there's money interest. They spend millions of dollars paying the politicians to ensure that, because every time under these laws, if the courts deem them constitutional, they're going to pick somebody up who's brown or black or doesn't meet the suspicion of being not here. They'll incarcerate him for 20 days. Somebody has to pay for that. The taxpayers will pay for that, and they may be citizens or they may be here legally, if you will. And they're going to be making money. And there's a very big interest. When you privatize everything, here's the danger, like jails. The CEO's job is to make money.
No, these aren't privatized. Yeah, let's not confuse this. These are not privatized. These are granted monopolies. And that's a different, you say they're privatized, that means somebody gets to come in and, offer an alternative. I come in, I want to compete. Nope, you can't. Oh, well, that's not privatization. That's government granted monopolies. And here in Arizona, we know that on Janet Brewer's staff was one of the guys behind the privatization, making the money on the prisons that they are filling up with immigrants. No, we know. We'll be right back with CJ Czaia here in Czaia. I can get that right. I did my phonetics wrong. CJ, an attorney from Florida. We're going to get into it. We may have a little bit different perspective on this, but we're going to get to the answer, and I want to know about what are the provisions of the DREAM Act when we come back. You stay right there.